Well, my friends, today is a little different as we've got some interesting and honestly completely different pieces of Google news to talk about today. One aspect is regarding the newly released Pixel 9a, as Google gave us a rare behind-the-scenes peek at some design ideas they considered before we landed on the design we have now, which is always super interesting to take a look at. And on a less fun, much more serious note, we need to discuss the recent reports of layoffs that have impacted some of the teams within the Google ecosystem that we know and love, including those that work on Pixel and Android. Both I felt were really important to bring up to you guys, so real quick, let's do a deep dive into both of these stories. And of course, if you appreciate content like this covering Google or Android, consider subscribing to the 9to5 Google YouTube channel because we have a lot more content like this coming your way. Starting with the Pixel 9a, we know it's been out for a while now, and recently Google shared some behind the scenes tidbits about its design process. Specifically, they gave us a look at some alternative designs they considered before landing on the final look we have today. Personally, I absolutely love seeing these little insights, so let's break down what could have been. Right now, at the moment, we only have these super low quality renders from Google's blog post showing a few different design paths they explored for the Pixel 9a's camera setup. The first one shows a camera bar visor that spans almost the entire width of the phone. What's interesting is this visor apparently would not have protruded much, if at all, from the back of the phone. At first sight, this kind of reminds me of the old Huawei Nexus 6P from back in the day, which also had that similar camera visor look. And I actually really like the idea of this design. I think it would have kept the connection to the camera bar that we know from Pixel flagships, but still different enough to be its own product. I will say, part of me definitely wishes that we got to see this design make its way to final production, or at least got to see more of a closer look. Then there's the second option, which looks pretty close to the design that Google has eventually shipped, not really too much to say there. And the third one, as my senior editor pointed out, looks a lot like the vertical camera lens setup that you see on iPhones, and you know, we don't really play around with iPhones too much here, so personally, I'm glad Google stayed away from this one. Ultimately, Google landed on this domed pill shape for the camera module, which is what we have today. In the blog post, Google did give us an actual reason for this, and I do have to respect it, which is in the name of durability. They said the current design proved to be better at withstanding drops and impacts, so it's function over form in this case, and I do have to give them their flowers, even if I do think the full width camera visor would have looked better. Beyond the camera module, another interesting tidbit they shared is related to the screen. The upgrade to a POLED display on the Pixel 9a was apparently a big deal, as Google mentioned that switching to POLED actually freed up more internal space, allowing for a bigger battery. And as a nice bonus, something they said wasn't an initial goal but a welcomed outcome, it allowed them to increase the peak brightness to 2700 nits. According to Google's product management director, the overall goal with the Pixel 9a's design was to make it feel like its own distinct device within the Pixel family, while still clearly being a Pixel device. And honestly, looking at the final product and these alternative design options, I think they pretty much nailed that. It still feels like a Pixel, but definitely has its own identity compared to the 9 and 9 Pro. Admittedly, every time I show off the Pixel 9a to non-techie friends, I still have people tell me it looks like an iPhone, which always pains me to hear, but it is what it is. Regardless, it's super cool to get this little peek behind the curtain. I always appreciate it when companies share these kinds of design insights, and I really hope Google does this way more often for future devices. Alright, now we need to shift gears and talk about the other piece of news, which is definitely not as fun as the design concepts. There are reports originally from the information that Google has unfortunately laid off hundreds of employees, and this comes after they offered their voluntary exit packages back in January, maybe trying to soften the blow or address criticism from past layoffs perhaps. Now, these recent job reductions, as Google confirmed them, hit the big division responsible for a ton of Android product we use every day, which is its platform and devices division, led by the man himself, Rick Osterloh. For those who don't know, the platform and devices division is responsible for developing and managing Google's hardware and software products like Android, Chrome, Pixel, Nest, Google Photos, Google One, and so much more. Basically, it's a massive chunk of Google's consumer-facing products. The big reason for these layoffs, according to Google, is because they want to focus on, quote, becoming more nimble and operating more efficiently, while also mentioning there is a broader push inside the company for more speed and efficiency as a whole. I will say, as someone that's been covering covering Google News for quite some time now, I have seen them consistently work on streamlining their teams as of the past few years. If you remember, in April of 2024, about a year ago today, Google formed this platform and devices division in the first place by merging their hardware teams, that being Pixel and Nest, with their software teams, that being Android and Chrome. Even back then, the stated reasoning was to have their hardware and software development happen under one roof, enabling that quote full stack approach and making decisions faster. So it looks like this push for speed and efficiency has been an ongoing situation for a while now, and these recent layoffs unfortunately seem to be the latest step in that reorganization process. Either way, unlikely end users will notice any changes from this move, with major offerings and efforts remaining in place. Right now, it's hard to tell since there aren't any specifics on which teams or products were hit harder than others. We just don't have those details right now. All we know is the number is in the hundreds. Keep in mind, the platform and devices team has over 25,000 employees across all different product areas. My gut tells me removing a small fraction, even if it's in the high 900s, worst case scenario, shouldn't fundamentally change the core of our experience as Android users. I'm hopeful these are targeted cuts focused on that speed and efficiency talking point Google keeps bringing up, and that this is more of a streamlining effort than anything else. At this point, we don't know the actual impact and probably won't know the actual impact for quite some time, and right now, unfortunately, we're just in a wait and see position. So that, my friends, are some of the biggest Google stories as of late, all wrapped up into one easy to watch video. I wanted to bring them up because both of these are important to be aware of as Google/Pixel/Android enthusiasts, and I love diving in to see what we can take away. As I mentioned earlier, I love seeing a behind the scenes look at the Pixel devices that we have today and how they came to be. I love seeing the thought process and the alternative designs they considered and what minute details they changed in order to achieve a certain outcome. It genuinely does make me appreciate the day-to-day tech I use a lot more, and it gives me more insight than just, oh, it's a new phone, or oh, there's no camera bar. I love the nuances behind this tech, so I'm glad Google shared some insight. And on the other hand, these layoffs, while we're told won't impact us in the near future, are still really important to pay attention to. It's quite possible that future development could be impacted. It could also signal a shift in strategy, and there's just so many ways that we can look into these layoffs that could offer some small insight as to where Google is heading. And as a tech enthusiast, I always want to be keeping an eye on this kind of stuff. But that's everything I have to share in today's slightly different, more news-heavy video. Let me know what you think of covering two topics like this, and definitely share your thoughts on the Pixel 9a's design insights and the Google layoffs down in the comments, as I'm really interested to hear the Android community's thoughts on this. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving a like and subscribing for more content like this, as it really helps out the channel. And until next time, this has been Jordan Floyd from 9to5 Google. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.